Good evening, everyone. I am Tracy L. James, and I am super excited to be back with you again this week for Real Talk with Real Men, brought to you by Dr. Shayna and her voice. I am super excited about everything that's been happening this month with the Real Men Wear Purple initiative. It is awesome to see men stepping up to the plate and being a part of speaking up and speaking out against domestic violence. So thank you for joining us. And guess who just joined me? The one and only Dr. Shayna herself.
Hello, hello, hello. Good evening, family and friends, and all of you who are just scrolling on Facebook or scrolling in YouTube. Welcome, welcome in. How you doing tonight, Tracy?
I am doing amazing. I am excited about this conversation. I've been thinking about this all day long. I can't wait.
Me too. I'm so excited. So if you are like, who are these ladies? What are they talking about? Tracy just introduced the name, the title of tonight's show, Real Talk with Real Men. And I'm Dr. Shayna D. Lewis, the founder of Her Voice. We are a nonprofit organization that is dedicated to empowering survivors of domestic violence through mentorship and education. So think big brothers, big sisters, but for survivors of domestic violence. And one of the things this year that I can thank Tracy L. James for is the idea of Real Men Wear Purple. She's done this in Real Men Wear Pink. So we said, why not let the men wear purple? Because it
Right.
just is fitting. And so what we understand is domestic violence is a family violence issue. So much of the time, women are the ones that you see on the front line saying, this is not right, this is wrong, it needs to stop. But we said, and last year too, Ron Reynolds, who is a state representative, Ron Reynolds for Texas, he was our keynote speaker or one of our MCs last year. Mm-hmm. And he and I had this conversation as well about getting men engaged. And so what we said was, we need to do something. So here comes Real Men Wear Purple. And we were off, right, Tracy, looking for men who wanted to take a stand.
That's right. We were looking for men who wanted to speak up. And let's just be honest and real about the situation is that because women have been in the forefront of the conversation for so long, we really weren't sure how men were going to respond to speaking up against domestic violence. But let me tell you something. We have been blown away by the men's responses because we have 11 amazing men who are participating this year. But guess what? Even we probably had about 3 or 4 that had to say no this year due to prior commitments. Mm-hmm. But every last one of them said next year.
Yes.
Get me next year. Yes. So it is awesome to see, outspoken men who are willing to speak up and say this is wrong. And we need to be a part of the change. Absolutely. And so that is the amazing thing about having men speak out on this issue. And I can't wait.
Yes. So tonight, you're in for a treat. So we have 11 men in the campaign, but tonight you'll get to meet 2 out of the 11. You get to meet a pair of twins, I guess. 2 out of the 11 you'll get to meet tonight to hear from them why this is important. Why did they think it necessary to be able to say something so publicly and taking a stand against domestic violence? I can't wait for you to meet them. But do me a favor, if you're popping into the live, if you're on YouTube or Facebook, just tell us hello. Tell us who you are, where you're watching from. We always love to interact with our audience. If you have questions or comments, please do not be shy. If you know Dr. Shayna, I love to interact with the audience. So please talk back to us. And let us know your thoughts. So we'll go ahead and with no further ado, this is called Real Talk with Real Men. Let's bring on some real men, Tracy. What do you think?
Hey, let's bring in the real men. And while the men are coming in, if you are on Facebook, share this right now. We want more people to be involved in this conversation.
We do. Well, first up, we have Real Man. Some of you may have seen him before. His name is Duval Mitchell. How are you doing, Duval?
How you doing, young lady?
We're doing wonderful. Now, you may know him for his voice. You may know him as a model. You may know him as a domestic violence advocate because he has been very vocal in the community. Matter of fact, we met last year, Duval, at our event last year.
That's exactly right.
And he said to me there, he said, Dr. Shana, we're going to blow this thing out the water next year. So I am so grateful to you that you kept your promise and you are definitely
Yes.
here to make this thing go all the way to the top. So
Right
thank
on,
you,
right
Duval,
on, right on.
and welcome in. And so next up, we have Brandon Moore. Good evening, Brandon.
Good evening, Dr. Shayna, Tracy, Duval.
How you doing?
How you all doing tonight? I'm happy to be here.
We are super excited for you to be here. So, Brandon, we just met him as a part of this campaign, but completely committed to the cause. We had a chance to meet all of our real men behind the scenes last week. If you were on my IG page, you got to see some of the behind the scenes stuff that we've done. But I'm so grateful to you, Brandon, for you being willing to take this public stand against domestic violence. So, thank you for being here.
Well, thank you, and thank you for having me. I am honored to be here. I think this is a great cause, and looking forward to sparking the conversation.
Awesome, awesome. Well, let's just say hello to folks who are in our live stream. We have Shannon Adams. Hey, Shannon. Stephanie Brown Luss. She was there last year. Yes, it was powerful, Stephanie. Australia, one of our mentors is watching. Nicole McDaniel. Hey, sis. Thank y'all for popping in. For the rest of you who are watching, say hello. It's kind of like you enter any room. Just speak. You want to know that you're here and say hi. So let's just jump into this conversation. So Brandon, you're new to her voice, right? So Duval has some history with us. He's been an advocate of domestic violence for many, many years, and he'll share that in a minute. But for you, why was this necessary? Why, when you were asked, Michael, our chair of this event, asked you to be a part, why was yes the answer that you were so willing to give so easily?
Well, that's a very good question. For me, it really was near and dear to my heart simply because I wasn't directly affected within my direct nuclear family by domestic violence. But I grew up in the 80s and the 90s. I'm a child of City Under Siege and the news and everything being sensationalized. And I've always seen men and Black men portrayed as the suspects or the perpetrators of domestic violence. And that seems to be the image that we constantly see projected. And so being that I was raised by a strong Black man, I'm raising two sons of my own. I wanted to make sure that, we're getting our voices out there and people understand that we're taking a leadership role to support victims of domestic violence and to eliminate domestic violence and try to minimize it. And so I took it really dear to heart. It was dear to heart for me to take a stand and be a part of this. And then let's just expand the conversation and make sure that we're doing everything we can to understand the victims' perspectives, to understand the root causes of domestic violence, and then how we can avoid them.
Love that. Love that. So it was an easy yes for you. And I love that you said you're raising two sons yourself. So they're going to be men one day, and they're going to watch what you do, and they're going to mimic what you do. So I applaud you for taking that stand for you and for them and their futures as well. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Beautiful.
So Mr. Duval, you're not new to this. You true to this. I know. You've been here for a while.
Exactly.
Talk to us about what this means to you.
Well, and I'm glad you asked. I've experienced domestic violence from a child's point of view. As a kid, I watched my mother repeatedly get abused by different men that she dated. A couple of them she married. And I've always wanted to be different from them. I was brought up in the projects, of course, and a lot of the mentors there was doing the same thing to ladies that I watched my stepfathers do to my mother, which was physically abuse them. So I took a stand as a kid and tried to help my mother. And now when I look back on a lot of these events, should I say, when she was getting physically abused, I wasn't able to help as much as I wanted to as a kid. And I'm kind of glad I didn't help all the way that I did want to, because if I did, I wouldn't be sitting here with you guys. So from a kid's point of view, watching their parents fight, watching their mother get physically abused, it could really scar you for life. I mean, I'm 62 years old and I still can see the things that she was taking just like it was yesterday. So I always had a side business that I did as a kid, and realized it was a side business, as they call it nowadays, a side hustle. But I always made extra money to help my mother. And I continued doing it throughout the days. And now I see that was another way that I could have helped her. And if my siblings would have took the same lead that I took and would have had a little side hustle, we would have made enough money on the side where my mother wouldn't have to depend on these guys for financial support. And I'm getting off the subject, but so it goes deeply rooted in my heart. When I hear of domestic violence, is zero tolerance with me. And I help the women and youth start businesses. See, if you can help these young ladies and young men while they're kids, while they're being molded and watching this year abuse, you can let them know, even though it's in a norm in a lot of neighborhoods, it's not right. So somebody like ourselves have to stand up and share with these youth and these young men and young women that it's unacceptable to be abused verbally, physically, or mentally. But they're so used to seeing it being done that it's become norm. So we got to stop the norm.
We do.
That's very, very true. And you actually hit on one major issue within domestic violence relationships is the control of the money and the need for the financial support. Oftentimes you will hear that that's one of the main reasons, especially when there are children involved.
Yes.
So I know that for you, Duval, you have made it a commitment to help women and, start businesses. And so you're taking that experience and turning it into something positive in this space. And I guess I want to ask both of you, ultimately, what do you want people to really understand about domestic violence?
You want to take the lead on this, young man? Because I'm long-winded, so I'm gonna let you get in first.
Brandon, you want to take that one first? Yeah. So what do you want people to really understand as a part of you speaking out? Because you've been really active on social media. And so what message are you really trying to get out?
I really want people to understand, number one, victims understand that they're not alone. I want them to be empowered. And there's something about feeling alone that you don't really understand your true power until you've got somebody beside you to say, hey, you're stronger than this. And not only are you not stronger than this in your moments when you're weak, you have somebody that's here to support you and show you a way out of this. I think a lot of times these situations get perpetuated because the victim does not necessarily feel that strength or feel there's anybody out there that support them or show them a way out. We talk about economic empowerment. That's one way that, we show support in the sense that you can have a strong woman or a strong man that may be the victim of domestic violence, but because we live in a capitalist society and everything runs on money, they don't have the money necessarily to say, I'm going to separate and get to another household, or I'm going to separate and take care of my kids' tuition, whatever it may be that's holding them in that situation. I think is somebody who's here to support. It's really my role in society to provide that power, that provide that view into their power, and help them understand that we're here to support you, lift you, and show you different ways to approach the situation that you can get out. And so I really want people to understand that the closer knit community we have, the stronger we build our community up, the better off we're going to be in these types of situations because we can provide partnership, we can provide opportunity, we can provide openings and exits for victims of domestic violence.
And I can't. I mean, you picked the right title for your organization, Her Voice. See, these women need to have their voices not only heard, but need to have support coming from not just other women, but men like ourselves. I can't stress it enough that when I'm trying to help women, even with starting businesses, if my mother would have had a side business going back when I was watching her get beat, she would have even had another way of possibly, should I say, helping herself financially. I even go even deeper. If I would have been able to help my stepfathers start a side business, instead of them focusing on beating on her, they could have been focusing on building their little business. So I
Mm-hmm.
try to help Lottie, Dottie, and everybody. I help men too, don't get me wrong. But I
Mm-hmm.
also know if I can reach out and get these young men to listen to me. See, a lot of them say they want to be like Duvall. Well, I let them know, well, you see me, I'm in slacks and with my pants pulled up, sport jackets. And if you want to be like me, you can't have your pants hanging off your butt.
Mm-hmm.
Second of all, you got
Mhm.
to respect women like you would respect your mother.
Yeah.
And treat them just like the queens that they are. And so with me helping them build businesses, and if I would have had a mentor when I was a kid, I started my side business when I was 8 years old, selling candy,
Wow.
making more money in the evening than my mother was making all day.
Wow.
So I
Wow.
had 5 siblings. So can you imagine if all 5 of us would have had a little side hustle going on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now I can't. I'm that. Should I say that bridge and that gap to help these women and youth start their side businesses? A lot of them
Right.
say, "Well, I don't know what I want to do." Well, guess what? I got over 175 different ideas that they can start from home. All of them you can start with less than $100, and if you ask of all, you can even start them with less than $20.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
Very good
I
point.
become a mentor. I've been in business myself since '81. Thank you, Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Now I've been blessed to be a blessing. Even my wife said, baby, if you stopped doing what you're doing, you'll be doing injustice to a lot of women and youth.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I've not always been this straight and narrow guy. I think I knocked the bottom out of the juvenile system. I went to juvenile so many times.
Mm-hmm.
So I can even talk to kids on the level in juvenile. And
Mm-hmm.
even there, we taught to, if somebody hit you, what you supposed to do, we was taught, hit them back.
Mm-hmm.
So wrong.
Mm-hmm.
See, if somebody hit you, you report that to the person in charge or the authority above you. Do not hit them back, because now once you hit them back, even though we was taught that, now we got a problem. See, I'm just as wrong as that person is now. So
Something you said, Duval,
yes.
I want to stress this point you said that is so good, because you just described what has happened in our society, because violence has so subtly been normalized as children that we have taught our kids at very young ages that it's okay. So we go to the playground on we don't have a whole lot of them right now, we're in COVID-19, but back before this all happened, on the playground, a little boy hits a girl. What do they tell that little girl that means?
Hit them back.
What do they tell the little girl that means?
That he like you.
That he likes you.
You're right.
Sign of
That's a sign of affection.
Oh, did you pull your hair? Oh, that means he really liked you.
That means he really like you.
So what I'm talking about is those very subtle societal innuendos that our kids are taught on the playground. So they grow up thinking that's what intimacy looks like. That's what love or like looks like. And so I'm a mother to a son and a daughter. And so I make a point, and even to all the young girls that I come across in my program, to make sure they understand you use words. You use words. Hands is never a way to express how you feel about someone. And if someone uses their hands, what they're saying is not that they like you. Let's just get clear that is not the message that's being sent. So when you think about it, and I know, Brandon, you're raising sons. Duval, do you have children?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Okay. You have sons as well, too? Yeah. Okay. So you have sons as well, boys?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So both of you are raising boys. When you think about subtle messages that you heard as boys, what are some of the messages you want to make sure your boys hear that are different now? Because when you start young, we perpetuate, it becomes unconscious. So we do things that we don't even think about it, because it's just what we do. Like you say, somebody hit you, hit them back. Nobody thinks about that. That's a reflex.
It's automatic.
Yep.
It's automatic.
Unless it's untaught some way different. Go ahead, Brandon. What would you say?
One of the key things you just brought up and made me think about is, and I think about it now because my oldest son is 17. And he open, and thank God to my wife, really more credit to my wife than myself. She's got a psychology degree. She's a teacher. She's taught us at different levels. But she's really real big on the kids expressing themselves since they were young. I mean, 2, 3, as soon as they could talk. And I just wasn't necessarily raised that way. And it wasn't because my parents, it wasn't that my parents were trying to do me a disservice, just the way they were raised. They were kind of old school. We've heard children are to be seen and not heard. Don't talk back.
Right.
And so we struggled with a lot of that when I was, when my boys were younger, because I was raised in a don't talk back household. But what you have to understand is you have to teach young men, young women as well, to express themselves. And it's okay to express how you're feeling. And that's not always a sign of disrespect. Sometimes expressing yourself, being vulnerable about your feelings, especially for young men, is very important. Because what happens is we're taught that that's weak, or we're taught that, more specifically, crying and things of that nature are weak. But even beyond crying, you don't necessarily have to cry to express yourself. But we bite our tongues a lot, especially amongst each other when you're 12, 13, 14 years old with other boys, because you want to be tough. And we have this image of what leadership is this tough, strong, kind of cowboy image. Maybe not so much cowboys as of late, but just that strong image of a stern, quiet man. But it's okay to express yourself. As human beings, you have to express yourself and let your feelings out. Because what happens is when you don't learn how to verbally express yourself, it leads to physical expression.
That's it.
And so you want to get something out. You may want to communicate something. Somebody may have wronged you. But if you don't know how to verbalize that wrong, you're going to put it into physical terms. And you're going to find yourself in trouble. And you've created a victim, and you yourself have become a victim of the situation, and you've created a victim of physical violence. So
that's good.
To young men, I would just say we really have to teach them how to express themselves. And so that's a part of education, right? That's a part of using education the right way, not necessarily through a grammar class and telling you how to do everything grammatically correct, but how to express yourself. Getting young men involved in drama, speech forensics, debate, things of that nature. So they learn how to express themselves. They learn how to deal with an opposing force or an opposing argument. Because I've been married. Matter of fact, my wife and I celebrated 13 years of marriage.
Congratulations.
And so I've been married 13 years. My wife and I have been together a lot longer than that. And I've experienced other relationships as well. And one thing that is a constant in a relationship is you're going to have an opposing force or a disagreement. And you have to learn how to deal with that. And being able to express yourself and understand how to take that on without being combative is really something we should start teaching our children at a young age. Opposing forces are not always bad, and they're not always out to get you.
That is very true.
We take that as put a wall up and they become an enemy. That doesn't mean an enemy because we disagree. And so being able to verbalize, being able to communicate, understand other perspectives really helps you learn how to deal with things and not result to physical communication. Put your hands on people.
Laying hands don't mean that you're superior to a woman. And I want young men to know too that it's okay to be wrong. See, sometimes being wrong is being right. I've learned a whole lot, once again, from my wife. My wife has taught me a whole lot of things. And I learned that even with the young men, it's okay to not know the answers sometimes. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to walk away from a fight. And if the other guy say, hey, he tricked you out, for a better choice of words, let him know, no. I'm a bigger man than him because, see, I don't want to get to his level. And then we escalate to something whole different ball game. Ladies need to know that, see, some of our mothers were taught, and this is, I'm telling my age, that back then, if a man didn't hit you, he didn't love you.
Yeah, you're right.
They were taught
very true.
If he hit you or try to get you in straight, treat you like a child, that's a sign of showing love. That is so wrong. And ladies do not accept that because that's not the way. But we've been taught that. Even watching our parents, and when they accept that abuse and stay with the person, the kid grow up doing the same thing. The girl stay with the man that abused her. The guy keep abusing her because that's the way to keep her in fear of you.
Absolutely.
So
Let me just say this right quick. I want to do a little bit of a commercial break because we've had some folks who've joined us. They may be like, what are y'all talking about? If you are just joining us, you are watching Real Talk with Real Men. I am Dr. Shana D. Lewis, the founder of Her Voice, a nonprofit organization that supports survivors of domestic violence. My co-host here is Tracy L. James. She is my right hand, my left hand. I got a couple of rights and lefts, actually, and she is absolutely one of them. And so we are joined here this evening by two amazing men who are willing to take a stand as part of our Real Men Wear Purple campaign. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and we want to bring and highlight the idea that it is not just a woman's problem, it's a family problem. And we want to make sure that we are able to support women all across the country and let them know that there are real men who will stand behind you. So we have two of our real men with us this evening, Brandon Moore and Duval Mitchell, who are here to just talk about why it's important for men to be a part of this solution, and why they are here. Now, we have some folks in the chat that are saying some things. We have Joanne that's joined us saying domestic violence is no joke. I've experienced it at a young age. Joanne, thank you for sharing that. One of the things I want to put in right here is that statistics will show that the young woman 18 to 24 is the most at risk for violent relationships. Now let's think about, where is she? She's 50% of them will be involved in some kind of violent relationship. So where is this young woman 18 to 24 in her lifetime? Where is she?
Most likely college, school, away from home for the first time for many of them.
Exactly. So speak about that, Tracy. What makes that time so volatile for her?
I mean, being in college is a vulnerable time. You may be away from home for the first time. You're trying to figure your life out. You're 18 and everyone says you're legal and you're an adult, but you're not really an adult. You haven't really figured out how to properly make decisions. You want people to like you. You want to be part of the in crowd. And so sometimes you do things that you wouldn't normally do just out of, per se, the peer pressure. Because I know for me personally, I put myself in a lot of bad situations when I was in college. I mean, by the grace of God, I'm still here, because it didn't have to be that way. But that's one of the things that does happen at that age, is that you're spreading your wings for the first time. And if you don't really know how to identify the difference between love and what's not love, you make a lot of really, really bad decisions that will follow you for a period of time, because it's a cycle.
It is. Right. It is. And we think about that woman who's on the college campus. And if the two of you have ever been on a college campus, you know, be free, do we want to do. But one of the things that I've talked to so many of these young women, they never labeled what was happening to them as violence.
No.
Because it shows up in a way. Some of them weren't raised in violent homes. They've never seen it before. Because that's a myth, that the only women who find themselves there were raised there. Now I will say they are more at risk for finding themselves there. Their boys or girls are more at risk for being perpetrated against or being perpetrators if they were raised in that home. But I have met plenty of women who were never raised. Tracy's raising her hand, who were never raised in a violent home and yet found themselves in a violent relationship. So these young women on the college campus have told me, well, Dr. Shana, he never wanted me to go to the parties. He didn't want me to hang out with my friends. He told me they were all jealous of me and he wanted me with him all the time. And, you know, he was checking my phone. It just meant that he loved me and so much, and he just wanted me all to himself. And so I'm like, baby, no.
But you believe it. But that's what you believe.
So it's really about, and we go into another form of abuse is manipulation.
Yes, sir.
So we talk about the young lady entering, 18, 19, 20 years old, and she's creating herself as a woman, right? She's deciding right now who she's going to be. And she's deciding within that environment of, you've got sororities, fraternities, you got the yard, you got athletes, you got pretty boys, you got the whole dynamic of what comes with college life. And you start to be exposed to more people, a larger community. So at the same time that young lady is determining who she is, we talked about perpetrators of domestic violence or manipulators who may not have come from that same background. They come from the Cosby family background, but they're creating themselves as well. And so there's pressure for them to create a certain image. I can remember going back, freshman year, you could be the sweet, innocent young man. And by the time spring came around, or you get past homecoming, and now you want to be a ladies' man. And so manipulation starts to factor into how you deal with women. And you never may have dealt that way with women before in the past. And so a lot of times young ladies get wrapped up into that because they want to, number one, you want to please. Peer pressure is a very big thing. So you want to please those that are around you. And if they're visually pleasing to your eyes, a lot of times that's what matters to you at 18, 19, 20. And you think in your mind, there's no way this young man that looks like this or this young lady looks like this would treat me this way or would be this way consistently. They just had, a mess up or this is not who they normally are. And so you start to make excuses for them. But which I think you brought up a very good point. We talked about addressing young men at an early age, which is very important. But when they have that reset, this is a reset period at 18, 19, 20, where they could be either building upon what they've already learned in the foundation, or they can create a new foundation, new personality. It's very important that we're involved with them at 18, 19, 20, and they have mentors. They have people on college campuses, or they may be in the business life that they're in, wherever they are, the church life, the community, the neighborhood, that are still able to show them examples of what a real man is and how to treat a young lady. Because you can get lost real quick. And if you're not introspective, which most 18, 19, 20-year-old young men are not, it's going to be a long while before you self-correct, or you're going to be in a bad situation before you self-correct. And so we have to have young men understand that they need that mentor relationship. They need somebody they can look up to say, hey, Doc, this is what's going on. How do I handle this? Or did I handle this the right way? Or I'm feeling this way. I'm feeling jealousy. I've never felt jealousy before. How do we deal with that jealousy? Because coming from, you get dropped into college, all of a sudden now you're competing with 3,000-4,000 other men, and you never had that before when you were a man in high school. So now you got to deal with jealousy. You got to deal with these other things, that pressures that are coming upon you that you never had before. And so young men need to have that mentor, but then young ladies also, they need to have that mentor that steps in and says, hey, no, the way your father treated you, that's the same way that you should be expected. Let's not deter from where you come from. And if you don't have that example, hold on, let's start to find examples of that within the community that we can focus on. If he's not treating me how the pastor treats the first lady, then maybe I should re-examine this.
That's really, really true, because I didn't grow up with my dad. I met my dad as an adult. So while I saw my grandparents interact, I still really didn't know what a relationship should really look like. And so when the examples started to come, had it not been for a good friend, I would have gone down a really bad path. Right. And when I shared with her that he almost hit me, he just went back like he was going to hit me. She was like, you don't need to see him no more. And I was like, but I like him and he likes me. And she had to explain to me, he shouldn't be trying to hit you if he likes you. And because I respected her, she was older, I'd always looked up to her, I stopped seeing it. It was enough for me to say, okay, let's think this through with her. But had she not said anything, I was headed straight down that path.
Where would you be?
And so it's important.
And here's the thing, though, having the right mentors. Brandon talked about the right mentors. Because if your girlfriends are your only mentors, they in the same spot you're in. That's not a mentor. That's your girlfriend. That's homegirl. That's your, they're the same place you. I said the statistics shows that 1 in 2, at least 50% of young women this age are going to be in a violent relationship. So if you're talking to her, if she 1 or 2 friends, she might be in the same position you're in, not in a place to really help you out of it. So it's important. I'm glad you brought out mentorship, Brandon, because that is huge. And young people think they know everything. So I thought I did. Of course we did. We were bright. We were brilliant. We ain't know nothing, but we thought we knew everything. But I like that begins in parenting where you teach children the value and power of learning from people who know more than you know, who are older than you, respecting that and creating those connections. So I love the
And
fact
doing the
that
right thing, and
you
also
are doing the
doing the
right
right thing. See, now another thing with college, and like you said, when they're 18 and they're going on off to college, when you bag that up, at least 40 to 50% of them didn't have a two-parent household.
thing. That's true.
And more than likely, it was the mother that raised that young man. How can a woman teach a young man how to be a man?
Mm-hmm.
You see where I'm going with this?
Oh
So
yeah.
they end up just
Oh, yeah.
taking, how can they just take what they know and amplify it. So that's why it's important to catch them as youth. And once again, I stress that I can't wait to go and talk to some of these youth at the juvenile homes, talk to these youth at schools, talk to these youth among the city and the women. And I want the men to listen too, but the average man, and I'm one too, we feel like we already know everything. And that old saying, it's hard to teach an old dog
New tricks.
trick. But you can show mold that young dog to do the right thing. So I'm looking at these young kids. We just need to catch them at a younger age. The ones that's already 18 and 19, we still need to, like you said, be mentors to them. I even started Duvall's Men of Integrity group. I used to be in a group called the Gentlemen of Distinction, which
Yeah.
you know, we're distinct now. We're the minority. When I open the door for ladies, I have some people. I had never had somebody open the door for me. I let them know chivalry isn't dead. And if he don't open the door for you, let that be your last date. Because I need to talk to the gentleman because maybe he don't know that you should do this. He didn't see his dad do it or his mom, boyfriends. They just walked to the car, got in, and looked at them and reached over and unlocked the door.
Right.
So what do they do when they get a girlfriend? Same thing.
The same thing. I mean, it's the cycles, the patterns.
Yeah. So we
Continue.
just got to step up and have some mentors and some Ask Duvall. That's another one of my companies, AskDuvall.com. I'm gonna have to add that to gentlemen. If you want to know how to be a real man, do what? Ask
Duvall. I love it. So if you're tuning in and you're wondering what we're talking about, these are real men who are working with Her Voice and the Real Men Wear Purple campaign. This Sunday, as a matter of fact, October 25th at 2:00, we are having a virtual gala highlighting these men, and 11 total of them. What's that? 9 more? I can't do my math that fast. And 9 more men who are also willing to take this stand. You can go to our website, realmenwearpurple.com, get your free ticket, or if you feeling froggy tonight and you want to be a VIP and you want to get a Her Voice mask, signature mask, or a Real Men Wear Purple t-shirt, you can absolutely upgrade to VIP for $25 or $35 and support this effort. Now, this is also a campaign, and these young men are in a competition to see who's going to raise the most money and who's going to make the most social media posts. So at the end of it, we will have a Real Men Wear Purple champion for the year, but we know they're all winners just for being here. So please do us a favor, support these men and their efforts by visiting realmenwearpurple.com. Great conversation. I'm loving the thought process of men, and it's something about having a man say it's not okay, because women have always been this voice. And one of the things that I want to talk about right now, and we've kind of touched on it in different places, is the various ways that violence can occur. Because there's a lot of myths where people think if she wasn't hit, that's not violence. You mentioned manipulation, Brandon, which is foundational in domestic violence. I usually will paint the picture. People will say, well, why doesn't she leave? Wrong question. Stop asking that question. When you ask why doesn't she leave, you have now blamed her for her abuse instead of asking why won't he stop abusing her. That's the right question to ask. Or what can I do to assist in the situation? Keeping yourself safe. I'm not asking anyone to put themselves in danger. Say something, see something, say something. Let her know that you care about her. Or chin check him if you're the man in his life and you know he's wrong. Now, I'm saying that, but I'm going to let my brothers speak on that in a second, because, again, that's coming from me. But I'm going to let them speak about that. But I want to first talk about the different ways it occurs. So when you talk about the manipulation, Brandon, we're talking about college campuses. It brought me back to, we do not label infidelity cheating as abusive, but it is.
Yes.
Because that's lies, that's manipulation, and abuse. A fundamental definition is coercive control. So when he controls your mind and he makes you think whatever he wants you to think, ladies, that is abusive. When he has your mind, he literally has everything else under control. So talk about ways that you have seen or heard abuse occur, because it's not just physical, it's manipulation, it's spiritual, it's financial, it's sexual, it's so many different ways. Talk about that aspect from your perspective of what you've seen or heard.
Well, I mean, we can go. I can go back to high school days, where I mean, I was an athlete in high school. I was involved in campus. I always had, kind of a good reputation with ladies when it came to being a good boyfriend or just a good friend. And I thought I was somewhat attractive. But we had our more attractive girls that were 16, 17, 18, beautiful young ladies. And when I would go to basketball practice, me and my friends would go to basketball practice, these young ladies would go out to the edge of the campus, and you'd see full grown, foreign vehicles parked outside. And many times you see 25, 26, 27, 30-year-old men picking up 16, 17-year-old girlfriends from school. And what they basically did was took the tool of manipulation, whether it be through money, the vehicle, access to restaurants, access to different things. I went to Jones High School in South Park. God bless Jones. I think right now it's the Jones Futures Academy, but just to say it's on 7414 St. Lo in South Park, Houston, Texas. There weren't a lot of us that were exposed to foreign vehicles. There weren't a lot of us that were going out to eat 2-3 times a week or a month. And so when a young lady, all of a sudden, a 30-year-old man, a 25-year-old man, all of a sudden catches the eye of a 16-year-old, he's got a nice car. He's well dressed. He's got brand new shoes on. He's ready to spend $50, $100 on them. For a young lady, it's something you're just not used to. And even if you are used to it from your father, typically within our community, there's minimal. We have minimal interactions with that with our daughter simply because of the time or whatever the constraints may be on the family. But that tool of manipulation I saw at an early age, where you wonder, I know I'm nice to this girl. I've tried to, be nice to her. I sit with her at lunch. I help her with homework, whatever it may be. But at 16, 17, competing with a 25-year-old or a 30-year-old who's got a full-time job, a nice vehicle, has probably got his own home or apartment. She can go hang out in or whatever it may be. There's a lot to offer there to a 16, 17-year-old young lady. And all they see is the benefit. And so, and it's by design. Of course, that 30-year-old man wants her to see the benefit. She don't know what kind of struggles he may really have or what's really going on in his life. But to a 17-year-old, he looks like he's balling, or he's got the perfect life. He's financially set. And so what ends up happening is they get entrenched. Well, he bought me a purse. He's allowing me to, be at his apartment 2-3 times a week. Or, he lets me drive his car, whatever it may be. That comes most of the time at a cost or a price. And I'm not saying that all men in that situation are that way, but it makes you wonder at 25 or 30 years old, what would interest you or what makes you interested in a 16 or 17-year-old young lady? And then, yes, she can be attractive. Don't get me wrong. We had 16, 17-year-old girls like they was 30. Like Pam Grier, But the reality is there's still a 16 or 17-year-old child. So there's a predatory influence. There are predatory motivations from a 25-plus-year-old man to go out and reach out to these young ladies. And it's their purest form, purest tool is manipulation. And so I saw that at a young age. And unfortunately, I saw a few of my classmates that got trapped into that. Beautiful young ladies, bright futures ahead of themselves, that kind of derailed or took a different path within their future to please this man or to become a part of this man. And what ends up happening is they become a part of their life. And he was able to control you at 16, 17, 18. He wants to control you at 21, 22, 23, and still treat you like a 16-year-old child. And that's when you start to butt heads and you start to realize, I'm an adult now. And he's still talking to me like I'm a child. And so sometimes it's too late for those women to see that once they get to 18, 19, 20. and they've been indoctrinated for 4 or 5 years into that relationship. So I've seen that type of manipulation at an early age. And it's not something we talk about. It's kind of dismissed, but I had some great principals, some great leaders. I thought from a teacher standpoint, from a principal standpoint, but in my mind, as I look back now, I'm trying to figure out why were they not out there at the corners running these dudes off?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you had no business here.
Right.
Right.
You know, so we have to do a better job of that and protecting our daughters, protecting our young women, because a lot of times I get it. There's a lot going on with educators and teachers and faculty, and they got to keep up with everybody within the gates. But we got to make sure that our young girls understand that what success really looks like, what it means to be successful independently upon yourself before you go reach out to somebody else's success. Because ultimately, a lot of times, their success is not your success. It never will be your success. It's not intended that way. If a man is successful beforehand and he goes and finds a woman that is not successful or is not on a path to success, that's by design, because he wants you to become a part of his work and his success. And you don't have any independence on your own. So I think we really have to empower our young girls, have them understand what it means to be on a path to success. And that means creating your own success with equals and not reaching out to older men that necessarily can take care of you. I mean, I think
that's what you just said it again. And when these young girls see these, what they call men, see, the guy they're in school with, he's in their eyes, he's a what? Boy.
Right.
This guy that's driving this car, who got a job in his own apartment, that's a man there.
Right.
They all say they want a what? I want a real man. Here they are, children, overdressing, trying to look older than what they are.
Right.
This is the young ladies. The little guys, of course, that goes without saying. But these young ladies want to look older. My wife posted some on Facebook the other day. If your 15-year-old daughter is at school with fake eyelashes on, whose fault is that? Because now she's already trying to look older than what she is. And you're going to draw what you put out. So, and then, let's fast forward it now to these videos and these rap messages. What we do, what we hear and see. And it's so, some of these messages are so off the chain. And then you look around and all of these girls and young men singing it word for word. And I'm even thinking, what? I ain't never heard this. And I'm in the music industry. But these messages, subliminal messages that we send out, or these kids send it out, it's so normal now to call a woman a what? B.
All kinds of stuff.
Stellar B's. Then they wonder why this real man gonna treat you like a what? B. Some of them even getting necklaces. I'm a real
right.
B.
Right.
So what you described in Deval, what Brandon he used the word was indoctrination. Like we have created a culture, literally, around accepting what we are describing right now as violence, abuse. We've created a culture around it. Music is made around it. TV is made around it. We sit and talk about stuff. I wish somebody would, you know what I mean? We have created a culture around this. And when you think about, at the core of our culture, we have to do something. Right. Today, I don't know if y'all watched the news today, but tonight I posted it on my Facebook page. There was an officer. This man has been an officer for 40 some odd years who was killed today because he answered a domestic violence call. He lost his life doing the right thing, protecting the woman and her child. And the man who did the abusing is going to get to go to jail tonight. But he's gone. So too many lives are being lost. His life is lost. There are women who are dying every single day. What we have to understand is that women will leave a violent relationship 7 to 11 times on average before she is gone, stays gone, or she is killed. Women are dying. And what I want you to know is Harris County has the we are number one in the state of Texas for homicide and domestic violence. Number one, Harris County, H-Town. That's not anything to be proud of. When we say we have a problem, I'm not talking about NASA. I'm talking about domestic violence is rampant right here. Let's talk about COVID-19 that brought this even to a higher level,
Mm-hmm.
because we were talking earlier about that financial disenfranchisement that women may have. Now they're even more financially and economically strapped. They may have lost a job. He might be the only breadwinner. Maybe he lost his job too. Now we all at home looking at each other, trying to figure out how we're gonna get out of here. So we're in a crisis. Like
Yeah.
this is, I want folks to feel mobilized to understand that this is your business and your problem. So while it may not have happened to you, and so and Duvall, you had the personal experience of it. So your angle comes from a personal place first. Brandon, yours didn't come from a personal space first because it happened to you. But talk to a man who's watching this right now. There's some man watching this right now who can hear himself in what we've just described. There are some men who may not realize completely or really admit, let me say that their behavior is abusive. So
Mm-hmm.
if you were able, and Duval, I want you to follow up with it. If you were able, Brandon, to say something to this man, what would you tell him? What do you want him to know?
Well, brother, leadership starts within yourself and leading yourself and understanding who you are. There's no way you can lead a household, you can lead a company, lead a sales team, but definitely within your household, lead a woman or a family until you understand yourself. And when I say understand yourself, understand that you're not going to be perfect. So you shouldn't try to live up to a perfect standard. Understand that you are to be respected, your faults and your strengths, but understanding what your faults are. Understanding that your faults are not a reflection of a weak man, but somebody who's working towards being better. And you need a partner to help you work towards that. So really, and this is a big thing I think that most men don't get till they get past 30, 35 on, when they start to really become introspective. But we need to
Mhm.
start doing it at an earlier age. You could be 25, 24, 22, 21 and start to examine yourself and say, how am I handling myself? Am I projecting an image that should be respected? And if I'm not projecting an image that should be respected, a lot of times when we get disrespect, it's because we bring it on to ourselves. And
Mhm.
so you can't blame somebody else for disrespecting you don't respect yourself. But ultimately, what I would say to brothers is learn how to deal with your feelings, your emotions, learn how to deal with failure. We all will fail. Even the guy that you see on TV, to my young brothers, the rapper that you see on TV with the cars and the money, the athlete that you see, the billionaire or the millionaire businessman that you see, they all have failed. And they all have learned how to deal with that failure. And you don't deal with that failure through anger or lashing out at others. You're gonna need somebody to help you rebuild yourself, and pick yourself up from that failure. And if you decide to engage into a relationship with a woman, that is what your role should be with each other: is to build each other up, to partner with each other, and help each other get through failures, how to overcome failures, learn from them, and then avoid them and build success. And so you can't build with somebody under you can't build with a partner when that partner his neck is under your foot. Um,
Mhm.
you've got to be able to have a partnership, and more than anything, I think we go to work every day. You got a boss, right? If you're in that position where you're in corporate America, you have a boss. You listen to somebody else for 8 hours a day, and you come home, and in turn, this is your chance to be the boss. But you got to remember how that makes you feel. Leadership is really not about being a boss. It's about being a leader and getting in the trenches and working with who's on your team. And at this point, that woman is your partner. And if that woman is not your partner, and she's not looking towards working towards that goal for you, brother, go somewhere else. Go find something. Either be by yourself until you're ready to lead, or go find another woman that wants to be a partner. And for my sisters, that's the same thing. You can't empower a man that does not want to be empowered.
Mhm.
Um, or a man that feels like there's power in his physical stature or in his money, but there's no power in actually being a partner and building. So, but back to what you said, Dr. Shiner, to these young men, there's never an appropriate time for you to verbally abuse a woman or to make somebody, to a certain extent, to verbally abuse anybody, but necessarily a woman, and try to make her feel less than. At the end of the day, if you really love that woman, you want to be with that woman, you ought to be putting her on a pedestal. She ought to feel like she is the best thing out there, you know. And if she didn't get that from anywhere else, she should get it from you. And so If you're not playing that role, if you're not helping her build and become better, then you probably need to move around and go somewhere else because you're not getting better yourself either. And there's a false sense of security you get when you put somebody else down. There's this false sense of you thinking that you're making yourself better by putting somebody else down, but you're really not. You're sowing that seed of negativity. It's going to come back to you. And when it comes back to you, brother, you've earned that disrespect. So sow seeds of respect, respect yourself, be introspective, but don't ever put your hands on a woman. Don't ever belittle a woman. And a lot of times the verbal abuse can be much worse because verbal abuse tends to stick with it. Bruises heal, but verbal abuse, it can take you 20, 30. People die with it, from abuse that they had 50, 40 years previous. And it starts to affect their mindset. So that's really my message to young brothers is that do everything you can to be introspective, figure out what you're lacking or the goals you're trying to accomplish, and then find a partner that fits into that. And if you guys don't fit into that together, it's not going to work. It's not going to mix, and you're going to be confronted with situations that you're not ready to deal with. And so put yourself in a position where you're building, your partners, you can overcome failure together without combating or turning on each other during it. So it just takes a little bit of a slower walk. Don't be so fast. And I'm saying it to somebody who, man, when I was 18, 19, I was moving fast. So it's natural to do so, but take some time to be introspective, figure out where you're wrong and where you can be better. And then be not a boss.
I like that.
Right on, right on, right on. No. And I'm gonna kind of reiterate on what I had talked about earlier about the word integrity, men of integrity. See, integrity is doing the right thing even when there's no one looking. It's easy to do right when you know people watching you, but do right when even there's no one looking. So even when you're speaking to your lady friend or that significant other in your life, be cautious of how they feel also. And it's okay, man, to know that we're not always right and we don't always have the answer. See, being a good leader is also being a good follower. So men got to know, even though they call us leaders, Obama, every time he laid his head down on that pillow, Michelle was sharing with him what to do the next day and how he made her better. So men, when you realize that we might be superior to the average woman physically because we were made that way, but mentally and emotionally and spiritually, the average lady runs circles around us. So if we take our time to listen to them and follow their lead also, and still know that they still looking up to us, which I think they shouldn't even look up to us, look across to us. We equal. We're not superior to you ladies. Men, you're not superior to them women. So if you feel like you got to lay hands or verbally abuse them or mentally abuse them, then guess what? Play like you're doing that to your mother. Boy, don't talk to my mother like that. You let somebody come up and call a young man's mother a B. If you're ready to fight, but go turn right around and go call his girlfriend a B. So when you tell them, treat her the way you would treat your mother. And that's like when guys go to church. The average person, when they go to church, they know not to curse while they sitting in there, their little 45 minutes. They know not to smoke a cigarette. They know not to drink. Unless they know dang right from wrong. And you can do right when you want to. So want to all the time. It's okay. Because even when nobody else is watching, somebody's watching. And even if it's just your kids, they're watching what you do. And our parents used to tell us, do what I say, not what I do. Well, guess what? You need to start doing the right thing because they're going to do what you do more or less than what you say.
That's true.
Men, just do the right thing. And as long as you're doing right, you can't go wrong.
Okay. Tracy L. James. Tracy L. James. Listen.
This is good.
What are your closing thoughts? Because I'm speechless.
Girl, I mean, it is awesome to just hear from men, such an amazing message about the involvement and how they can make a positive impact in the lives of our people in our community. Because ultimately, you want to sit there and you want to think about domestic violence just being about that particular couple, that particular family. The reality is this: it impacts our entire community.
Mm-hmm.
And I grew up in a neighborhood where you heard that what happens in the house stays in the house.
Mm-hmm.
And the secrets were kept and it was whispered about these things happening.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the thing. When you whisper about it, you give it power.
Mm-hmm.
When you keep that secret, you end up destroying the fabric of our community, because the family is the core unit of our community.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't come together and support each other and help each other, nothing's going to change. And bringing men into the conversation, I feel, is a positive step in the right direction to eradicate domestic violence, because the conversation has to be had on both sides. It's not just about me as a woman making the decision to not stay in a violent relationship or an abusive relationship. It's about the man understanding what not to do and what to do. And
A very
it's
good point.
that's where we're at, and we have to speak up. And if you don't know what to do, then reach out to an organization that works in this area and they'll advise you. Because I'm going to be honest, I didn't know what to do early on when I would see things happening that didn't look right. But you have to go and seek out help, even if this person isn't ready to seek help. You need to try and connect them to the help, because sometimes that's all they need to know is that they're not by themselves.
Yeah, that's big.
Tracy, that's all of it. All a woman really wants to know is that she's seen, because she can feel very invisible in a violent relationship.
Oh
She's
yeah.
been convinced that nobody loves her, cares about her. It's mind manipulation. And when she knows somebody noticed, you
Yep.
ask a simple question: are you okay?
Mm-hmm.
Sis, I'm concerned about you, and here's why. Whenever you're ready, I'm here. We have to remove judgment. We have to understand that her mind is not working in the same capacities that it was before it was manipulated to a point that she was ripped to shreds on the inside. She's not
Right.
functioning the same way. And this is a whole nother conversation that we're having on Thursday night. And I'm going to tell you about that in just a minute. But the power of what one person can do in making an impact in domestic violence is major. So I don't want you to think that, well, I don't know enough. If you watch this live, you know enough. You know enough to recognize some signs, some symptoms. You know when something is wrong. Her voice, her-voice.net is a website. You can reach out to us. Go to realmenwearpurple.com. Get a free ticket to our event on Sunday. We're going to talk about all of it. You're going to hear from 11 men who are going to talk to you about how a man is supposed to show up as a real man. You're going to hear from survivors who are going to tell you what it's actually like to be in an abusive relationship. You want to understand? Show up Sunday, 2:00. It's completely free. Maybe there's a football game on, but you know what? Take an hour and a half and make it important enough, because she could be your mother, your sister, your auntie, your cousin. She might even be you. And so I'm asking you, I'm begging you, do something. Let's not just sit and let this be an epidemic. A pandemic is what it is. It's a global issue that we sit by in silence. Tracy mentioned that silence. And I want to leave us with this: the aftermath of a secret is a curse. And what happens when we sit in silence is we make ourselves and those who we allow to sit inside of that curse suffer the consequences of the things that we're not willing to say out loud. So I'm encouraging you, if you see something, say something. If you experience it, do not feel shame that you don't speak up about it, because we don't want to perpetuate generational curses, generational trauma. This is what happens, family. And we pass it on to our children. And Duval is an example of a child who figured out what not to do, but there's a lot of them that don't figure it out the way he did, and they still end up in it. And so we want to be sure that we save them before it's too late and you have a chance. So I hope you heard the hearts of these men. I just want to, can we give them some love? Can y'all in the chat box, they saying
Yes.
powerful, just powerful. Amen.
Give them a round of applause. Round of
We
applause.
had a whole sermon tonight, apparently, because y'all got amen.
I see amens. Powerful. Just powerful.
My heart is just so warm. I don't know how else to say thank you to you, Brandon, to you, Duval, for being willing to be here.
Well, thank y'all for having me. I see the amen and the powerful comments as well, but I think the main thing I want to leave with everybody understand, this is not just a conversation to have on a Tuesday night for an hour.
That's right.
This is a perpetual conversation. It needs to continue in perpetuity. It's part of, like Tracy said, our community, our village. Let's have this conversation daily. Keep it in the forefront. Make it a part of who we are. As neighbors within the community, reach out. Don't be afraid to ask the questions. And don't be afraid just to say, I don't even have to know what's going on, but I'm here to help. So let's keep having that conversation.
I love that. Absolutely. We got to talk about it. So make sure Thursday night you tune in at 7:00. We'll be back. It'll be Real Talk with Real Survivors on that night. Ladies who are a part of Her Voice, who are mentors, will come share their stories and help you understand just why this work is so important. And beyond that, on Sunday at 2:00, go get your free ticket. It costs you $0, but you are welcome to get you a Real Men Wear t-shirt, or you can get you a Her Voice signature mask and be in style. And $25 or $35, we waste that at Starbucks on a weekly basis. Use it in a way that it can benefit your community and help create solutions. So I just want to say thank you. Please share this. If it's on your timeline, just hit the share button. You don't have to say nothing. Just hit share. Folks will be nosy enough to wonder what you shared, and they'll hit play and they'll see like, oh, look at this. So we can continue the conversation. Don't be a part of the problem. Be a part of the solution. Good night, everyone. We'll see you guys on Thursday, but nothing else. We'll definitely see you on Sunday.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.